るせえ。いつ俺がてめえらとそんな仲良しになったんだ。領域展開。
Domain expansion, flashy, carnival. Logias are the only devil fruit class we haven't seen an awakening for. So in this video, I'm gonna go over all the possible Logia awakenings, but to make this more interesting, I'm gonna give each Logia a domain expansion with their own unique ability. At the end of the video, I'll give the character who's most likely to awaken their Logia first. Unless you have future sight, you won't know who this is. I'll even give you a hint. They have Haki and they were at Marineford. Alright, first up, we have the Fleet Admiral of the Marines, Sakazuki. His domain expansion would be called Magma Mutts. What I envision for this domain, he can summon semi-sentient magma dogs to attack his enemies. And by semi-sentient, I mean like ChatGPT. Feels like it's a real person, but it has no free will, as of yet. The Mutts could chase down enemies and dodge basic attacks, but they aren't real animals, so they can't avoid traps. A Kainu is often called the dog of the Marines, and a lot of people say it's because he's loyal, but really, it's because he's a bitch to the Gorosei. After finally becoming the Fleet Admiral, all he's managed to do is sulk in his room and write passive-aggressive emails to the Admiral in the field. So his awakening would be very fitting, as he can finally show he's got that dog in him. Or, I guess, dog out of him in this case. Which is gonna come in handy when he has his rematch with his former adversary, Guzan. Aokiji's domain expansion would be called Absolute Zero. In this domain, particles close enough to Aokiji lose kinetic energy and become motionless. So if you were shooting a bullet at him, he's gonna think you're a dumbass because bullets don't hurt Logias anyways. But even if they did hurt him, the bullet would stop as soon as it entered his range. Same thing if you were trying to fist him. Now, I know what you're thinking. Did I just rip off Unlimited Void from Gojo? And yes I did. But there's a few key differences with these abilities. Gojo's domain is based on gravity, while Aokiji's relies on removing energy by cooling down the particles. So someone like Sadi Bo, who could keep the temperature in their punches high, would be able to fist Aokiji elbow deep. The rules of Absolute Zero would also apply to Aokiji. So if he wanted to attack someone in range, he'd have to turn it off right before he wanted to punch them. This power suits him really well because after joining the Blackbeard Pirates, he gives absolutely zero f***s. I know I cooked with that one, so good thing the gas was off. But now, it's time to turn the gas on with Caesar's domain, Gasp. As the name suggests, this awakening would make Caesar's enemies gasp for air. How does he do it? Well, Caesar would create a room filled with laughing gas so potent that you wouldn't be able to stop laughing. Basically like you when you take your 10th rip off the Benjamin. Now here's where it gets deadly. Eventually, those laughs are going to deprive you of oxygen and you're going to suffocate from the lack of air. This would be a massive issue for serious fighters like Mihawk. I mean, the only time we've seen him laugh is when he saw Zoro's fourth sword style during training. Plus, Caesar's a clown, so it'd be very fitting if he killed his enemies with laughter. The downfall of this domain is when he's up against fighters like Luffy, who already laughed their ass off in a fight. So if it's Caesar versus Luffy round 2, you know who's getting smoked. And what better way to smoke him than with Smoker's Awakening? I'd call this domain expansion Midnight Fog. It lets Smoker act as Black Smoke, which is more dangerous than White Smoke because Black Smoke commits 53.5% of all crimes. Also, his Black Smoke is toxic and hard to see through. When enemies breathe this in, they start to feel dizzy and weak because they struggle to get oxygen to their brain. Smoker can also trap them in this smoky darkness and weaken them over time. The murkiness and suffocation from the black smoke fits perfectly with Smoker's style of justice. Smoker often follows the rules, but he does have a moral gray area, and sometimes the line between doing what's right and doing what's needed is obscure, just like his smoke. But this domain has its limits too. Using it too much can make him tired, and strong winds or waters can make the smoke disappear. So if he used it in Logtown, Dragon would have still blown him, and he would have blown his smoke away. So my boy Smokey would take the L either way. And what else has an L in it? That's right, Crocodile. And his domain expansion has 2 L's in it, for a total of 3 L's. Wait, I thought we were done talking about Smoker. Crocodile's awakening would be called Hallucinogenic Mirage. This mirage puts opponents into a realm of confusion and uncertainty. Kinda like you flirting with any girl. The Mirage abilities can also conjure illusions, and if they're strong enough, can make the enemy hallucinate. And as they're confusing hallucinations for reality, The opponent's willpower, or haki, can be drained if they aren't careful. I thought this ability meshes with Crocodile's character really well because he's always had a calculated approach to fighting. And while this may seem deadly, the hallucinations can be countered by closing your eyes and relying on your observation haki. But even with observation haki, there's still audio illusions that can easily distract those who are squirrel. Sorry guys, I just saw a squirrel climb up a tree. What was I saying again? Whatever. Moving on to Enel. A lot of people were wondering where this guy went. Well, he actually took a trip to the moon, and while he was there, he learned a new domain expansion called Thunderous Cascade. With this awakening, he can create lightning attacks that chain. With each strike, the lightning arcs from one enemy to the next, creating a local area network of destruction. It's like yawning. Once one person feels it, everyone else is cooked. I thought this domain was fitting for Nell's character as he perceives himself as a god, and his whole ideology was to gain power and respect from others using the propagation of fear. This domain might seem OP, but Thunderous Cascade will stop chaining if it doesn't reach its next target within 40 feet. Also, the lightning can be stopped with an insulator, so Luffy can once again no-diff Enel and send him back to the moon at light speed. Light speed? Yeah, I think you can guess who's up next. Obviously, it's Caribou and his beautiful light green eyes. Introducing Caribou's domain, Get Out of My Swamp. This awakening grants him control over a monstrous beast embodying the swamp spirit. The swamp monster is a colossal beast that's capable of shaping its powerful limbs from its jelly form to crush enemies or grab them in its sticky hands. It also has access to toxic mud that can burn enemies as bad as getting nut in your eye. Don't let the size fool you. This beast can move crazy fast and it can reanimate anywhere within the swampy area. However, its power relies on Caribou's control and can break if he loses focus or is damaged. Keeping with the Shrek theme, just like how Donkey relied on Shrek to fight the tougher enemies, Caribou depends on the swamp beast to fight the stronger enemies on his behalf, like he did throughout the series with Luffy. Also, the toxic mud could show his willingness to use underhanded attacks to win battles. Really not an Admiral fighting style. Unlike our next awakening, which is Admiral Kizaru. Kizaru's domain expansion is called Photon Fuckery. With access to visible light, Kizaru manipulates perception by diffracting light entering his opponent's eyes. Kinda like when you see something underwater, but its position doesn't match what you see. This manipulation makes his enemies uncertain of his true position, so only those with strong observation haki can accurately locate him. And Kizaru can also absorb all the visible light in the atmosphere and reflect it out with extreme intensity, making him the brightest dumbass in the show. As an admiral who's known for incredible speed, Photon Fuckery adds a layer of diversity to someone who relied on speed blitzing his enemies. Where the domain lacks is that Kizaru's power rely heavily in the presence of visible light. In environments where light is completely absent, such as the room of a Discord mod, his abilities are pretty much ineffective, which is the complete opposite of our next awakening for Blackbeard and his domain expansion called Nocturnal World. That's kind of a long name, so let's shorten the Nocturnal to an N. And let's give Smoker another L from the word world, so now we're left with N-word. Yeah, that sounds sick. Let's go with that. We all know that Blackbeard takes double the damage from any attack he takes. But what if this is because we've only seen him fight in the day? With his domain expansion, N-word, Blackbeard's strength surges as he absorbs the darkness, becoming twice as strong as daylight hours. Not only does this enhance his physical powers, but his attacks also inflict double the damage on his opponents. Obviously, this awakening can only be used at night, but it has another drawback. As he taps into this darkness, he risks succumbing. No, wait, that's not right. He risks succumbing to an uncontrollable berserk state. In this state, he gets consumed by rage and attacks anything in his path, even his titillating captains. The risk of losing control shows how Blackbeard can be reckless and also put his crew in danger, as well as the unpredictable side of his character and how he balances between using darkness and being consumed by it. Man, that was poetic. Speaking of being consumed by darkness, our next domain belongs to Ace/Sabo. Sabo's domain would be called Azure Inferno. This will definitely be Sabo's most powerful technique and his ace with the hole. Wait, no, I said that wrong. His ace in the hole. This awakening grants him intense azure flames. These blue flames burn brighter and hotter than his orange flames. They're also harder to extinguish, so they can spread faster. but this is a bit of a double-edged sword because it makes them difficult to control, so it may accidentally spread to allies or bystanders in the battle. Because of the fire's instability, Sabo is forced to balance his desire for strength with the need to protect those around him, which low-key mirrors the challenges of leadership in the Revolutionary Army. Alright, last and certainly least, we have Monet's domain expansion called Big Chillin'. Monet's Big Chillin' can summon 5 ethereal snow angels. These angels fly around and scatter deadly snowflakes upon her enemies. Touching any of these snowflakes can inflict frostburn upon contact. Again, characters with fire-based abilities would be able to nullify the frostburn from the angels, but closing her domain is a little bit more complicated. Each angel is capable of regenerating if destroyed individually, so the only way to break her domain is if the angels are destroyed together. Monet's Big Chillin' power suits her really well because it shows her adaptability and hidden vulnerabilities, just like her ability to adapt and learn from serving under the rightful king, Dofi, and the vulnerability of her domain collapsing shows her inner fears of being exposed and vulnerable like she was after getting hacky diffed by Zoro. Alright, that's all of them. So which of these awakenings is going to be most likely to happen first? Well, I'd have to say it's going to be Smoker's. Reason being is he has one of the weaker Logias on this list, so knowing Oda, he's probably going to hype up the rest of the awakenings by showing a weaker one first. Also, I'm a Smoker fan, so I want my boy to get a W. And that's the video. Comment below some domain expansion you'd give these Logias. The comment button is right next to the subscribe button.